The sky above the alien planet shimmered with soft colors, unlike anything Leora had ever seen. It was not a sunrise or a sunset like on her home world. It was something in between, a glow that seemed to breathe with the planet itself. Leora moved carefully through the tall, translucent plants that swayed as though acknowledging her presence. She was fragile in body, with delicate limbs that could break easily if she misstepped, and fragile in her mind, trained to approach the unknown with extreme caution. Everything about her society had taught her to observe before touching, to measure before stepping, and to question everything. Curiosity had been her companion for as long as she could remember, but it had always been restrained by caution. The hum of a small craft approached, breaking her thoughts. It hovered silently above the luminous terrain, glinting in the soft light. Leora froze, her instincts screaming that she should retreat, but curiosity kept her rooted to the ground. The craft descended slowly, a mechanical marvel unlike anything she had designed herself. It was human-made, and its presence here, so far from any known human settlement, was unexpected. She had read reports of human exploration in distant galaxies, but seeing one in person was different. Humans had a strange reputation across the stars. Many alien civilizations whispered of them as reckless and unpredictable. Yet, from what Leora had studied, there was a kind of charm to their audacity, a confidence born not from strength alone but from persistence and adaptability. The craft landed with a gentle hum, disturbing the nearby plants just enough to make them flicker like they were startled. A hatch opened slowly, revealing a human stepping out. He was tall, with steady movements that suggested calm control rather than aggression. His eyes, sharp yet kind, scanned the environment before focusing on her. Leora held her breath. She wanted to retreat, but something about the human's presence did not inspire fear. He raised a hand in a gesture of peace. "Hello," he said, his voice warm and steady, breaking the silence without demanding attention. Leora tilted her head slightly, studying him. His form was simple but intriguing. He carried no visible weapons, no devices that could threaten her. There was only the sense of careful observation, the kind of attention that invited trust rather than fear. Leora's drone, a small spherical device with delicate sensors, floated up from the ground, damaged from her earlier experiment. She had been testing its ability to record the planet's energy patterns, and now it was malfunctioning, flickering weakly. The human noticed immediately, crouching slightly and extending a hand toward the fragile machine. Without thinking, Leora allowed him to pick it up. She watched as he examined it with curiosity, not aggression. His fingers were strong but gentle, and he worked with a patience that mirrored her own careful nature. "Looks like a calibration issue," he murmured, more to himself than to her. The drone's lights flickered, then stabilized. Leora blinked, surprised. She had expected humans to ignore delicate equipment or mishandle it out of arrogance. Instead, this one had restored it without breaking a single component. That simple act shifted something in her. A small seed of trust began to grow. "You made this?" he asked softly, looking at her. Leora nodded slightly, her movements cautious but deliberate. He smiled, a gesture she hadn't expected. There was no mocking or judgment, only genuine interest. "I'm Elias," he said. "I explore planets like this. I try to learn without harming." Leora's antennae twitched, an involuntary response of her species to sincerity. She wanted to speak, to explain herself, but words were not always enough. Instead, she extended her hand slowly, an offer of trust. Elias mirrored her, his hand hovering just before theirs touched. She felt a warmth she hadn't felt around anyone outside her research team. Something about this human made it possible for her to relax her caution. For the first time in her life, Leora allowed herself to step closer to the unknown. She let curiosity guide her steps instead of fear. Elias watched, encouraging without pressing, letting her set the pace. Together, they explored the immediate area around the landing site. Leora showed him how the plants reacted to her presence, how subtle shifts in energy could signal hidden organisms. Elias watched intently, asking questions, taking notes, and never making her feel like she was inferior. Hours passed like minutes. Leora began to forget her usual apprehensions. She found herself explaining things she had never shared with anyone outside her closest colleagues. The human listened as if every detail mattered, and in doing so, he made her feel safe. It was a sensation she had rarely experienced. She realized that curiosity could be shared without fear, that discovery could be joyful rather than cautious, if the right companion was present. As the planet's twin moons began to rise, casting long, gentle shadows, Elias suggested they move closer to a nearby formation of crystalline structures. Leora hesitated. The ground was uneven, the structures fragile, and her body was prone to injury. Yet she felt a spark of daring she had never allowed herself before. Elias did not push her. He simply extended a hand in invitation. She looked at it, then at the glowing landscape around her. Something inside her clicked. Trust had given her courage. Curiosity gave her purpose. She took his hand and stepped forward. Together, they moved toward the crystals, careful with each step. Leora noticed patterns in the crystals that she had not seen before, reflections that hinted at deeper structures within the planet itself. Elias marveled at them, his expressions of wonder genuine and contagious. She found herself laughing softly, a sound she had almost forgotten. By the time they reached the center of the crystal formation, Leora realized she had been holding herself back her entire life. She had measured, calculated, and feared, but she had never fully experienced exploration. Elias had not forced her, nor had he hurried her. He had simply provided a safe space for curiosity to thrive. They settled near a particularly large crystal, which seemed to hum softly under their touch. Leora carefully laid her damaged drone on the ground and examined it again. Elias watched her, offering occasional advice, never taking control. It was a partnership, delicate and respectful. "You're different from what I expected," Leora admitted quietly, her voice almost lost in the hum of the planet. Elias tilted his head, curious. "Different how?" "Human. I thought humans were reckless," she said. "I expected noise, force, impatience, but you listen. You understand without judgment. You make me feel safe to see what I've never dared to see." Elias smiled, not arrogantly, but as if he understood fully. "That's all exploration should be," he said. "Not just to discover the world, but to help others feel free to discover too." Leora paused, letting his words sink in. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine something beyond caution, beyond fear. She imagined a world where exploration was not bound by limits, where curiosity could flourish without anxiety. And in that moment, she realized she wanted to see more of this planet, more of the universe, more of what humans could teach her. As night fell and the moons reflected softly off the crystals, Leora and Elias sat quietly, observing the subtle movements of life around them. Tiny bioluminescent creatures floated through the air, their paths creating patterns of light that shifted and danced. Leora traced their movements with her fingers, marveling at their delicate beauty. Elias leaned in, watching her fascination and sharing in it without interrupting. She realized that curiosity could be a bridge between species. It could allow understanding, friendship, and even trust where fear might have ruled. The human beside her was not just a companion for exploration. He was a teacher in patience, in empathy, and in the courage to take small steps into the unknown. As she prepared to leave the crystal formation, she looked at Elias, her mind alive with ideas. Perhaps this was only the beginning. Perhaps this human had shown her a path that her society had never considered. Perhaps there was more to life than careful observation from a distance. She made a quiet decision. She would follow him, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Because finally, she had found someone who made it possible for her to explore, to wonder, and to feel safe while doing so. And that realization was more thrilling than any discovery she had ever recorded in her studies. The night deepened, and the soft hum of the planet filled the air. Leora knew that tomorrow she would step further, see more, and perhaps learn things she had never imagined. But tonight, she simply allowed herself to feel the strange, comforting sensation of trust, the rare warmth of companionship, and the quiet joy of curiosity fulfilled. The morning light on the planet spilled across the crystalline formations, turning them into towers of soft, sparkling color. Leora awoke with a sense of quiet excitement. For the first time, she didn't feel the usual tightness in her chest, the constant warning that the world was unpredictable and dangerous. She had felt safe yesterday, and that safety had allowed her to move further than she had ever dared. She stretched carefully, testing her limbs, and noticed that the human Elias was already awake. He stood outside the small craft, examining the way light bounced across the alien terrain, completely absorbed in the world around him. Leora watched him for a moment. There was something extraordinary about the way he observed, not just with eyes but with attention and care. Every small detail mattered to him: the sway of the plants, the shifting shadows, the soft vibrations in the ground. Leora realized that this human's curiosity was like hers, yet broader, reaching beyond caution into bold but thoughtful action. She felt a warm spark of admiration. Elias noticed her and gave a gentle wave. "Morning, Leora. Did you sleep well?" "I slept more than usual," she admitted, her voice soft. "I did not expect to feel so relaxed." "Relaxation is important for exploring," he said with a small smile. "It helps you notice things you might miss otherwise." Leora nodded thoughtfully. She had always measured, calculated, and analyzed, but she had rarely allowed herself to simply notice, to enjoy without judgment. She followed him out of the crystal formation, moving carefully, letting her senses adjust to the light. The air was alive with gentle movement. Tiny floating creatures emitted soft glows, drifting in patterns that seemed almost choreographed. Leora reached out to trace the path of one, and it responded with a subtle pulse of light. Elias leaned close, clearly intrigued. "Do you see that?" he asked quietly. "It's like the planet itself is alive, responding to our presence." "Yes," Leora said, her eyes wide. "It reacts not with force but with awareness. It is subtle, but it is aware." They moved slowly through the alien terrain. Leora pointed out hidden life forms, plants that shifted when they sensed heat, small creatures that reflected light in patterns like a language. Elias asked questions constantly, his curiosity genuine and gentle. He never pushed her to show more than she wanted, never rushed her to step into unknown areas. Instead, he waited, observed, and encouraged. With him, Leora felt her own curiosity expand, unrestrained by fear. At one point, they reached a shallow pool, its surface perfectly still, reflecting the glowing skies above. Leora knelt by it, running a delicate finger along the edge. Tiny ripples formed, but instead of dispersing normally, the water responded to her touch in intricate, glowing patterns. Elias knelt beside her, fascinated. "Your species must have a deep understanding of this world," he said. "You notice the smallest shifts in energy." Leora hesitated, feeling a small pride. She was cautious by nature, but here, with someone who appreciated her perspective, she felt seen in a way she had never experienced. "You notice it too," she replied softly. "But humans usually do not see the details without tools." "I try," he said with a grin, "and sometimes I'm lucky to have someone show me how." They continued exploring, moving from one curious sight to another. Leora taught Elias how to read the subtle currents of energy that flowed through the planet, how to sense changes in the atmosphere that hinted at hidden life forms. In return, Elias shared human methods of observation, small instruments that measured environmental shifts, simple tools that amplified perception without altering the natural state. Leora was fascinated. The human approach was different from hers, systematic yet flexible, guided by instinct as much as logic. She realized that together they could see more than either could alone. By midday, they came across a narrow canyon. Its walls were smooth and shimmering, reflecting light in impossible ways. Leora paused, her body instinctively tensing. The canyon looked fragile, unstable, and she was acutely aware of how easily she could be injured. Elias noticed her hesitation and crouched beside her, speaking softly. "You don't have to enter," he said. "We can observe from here if you like." Leora shook her head, surprising herself. "No, I want to see it, but slowly." "That's the right way," Elias replied, offering a hand. "We take it step by step." Together they entered the canyon. Leora led the way, testing each step, feeling the texture of the walls, listening to the subtle vibrations in the ground. Elias followed, careful, steady, providing silent support without crowding her. The canyon opened into a larger chamber, where delicate, floating plants emitted pulses of light that shifted in colors she could not name. She gasped softly, and Elias leaned in closer, sharing the awe. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Yes," he said, "and it's responding to us, Leora. See how it pulses faster when we move together." She nodded, eyes wide. "It's alive in a way we do not usually understand." They spent hours in the canyon, moving carefully but freely, observing, recording, and experimenting. Leora's confidence grew with every step, and she began to laugh more often, the sound light and joyful. She realized that she had never explored without fear before. Here, in this safe space, she was discovering not just the planet but herself. As they left the canyon, Elias suggested a small hill nearby that overlooked a valley filled with glowing vegetation. Leora hesitated for a moment, then followed. From the hilltop, the view took her breath away. Thousands of glowing life forms moved in intricate patterns, creating a living tapestry that stretched as far as she could see. Elias stood silently beside her, allowing her to take in the scene. "Do you ever feel small in moments like this?" Elias asked softly. "Yes," she admitted, "but I also feel connected, like everything has a place and I am part of it." "That's what I feel too," he said. "Even though this is not our home, we can belong here in a way." Leora nodded, feeling a quiet warmth spread through her chest. She had come to this planet with careful calculations and cautious plans, but she had found something unexpected: companionship, trust, and a sense of belonging that allowed curiosity to flourish. As they settled near the edge of the hill to rest, Leora looked at Elias. "You make it easier to explore," she said. He smiled. "That's what I try to do. Exploration is better when someone makes you feel safe." They spent the rest of the afternoon observing the valley, noting patterns, movements, and responses. Leora taught Elias how to predict the shifts in light emitted by the plants, how to recognize subtle cues in the floating creatures' movements. Elias shared his human methods for recording observations and analyzing patterns quickly. Together, they formed a rhythm, a partnership of trust and curiosity. As night approached, the temperature cooled and the soft hum of the planet's life forms became more noticeable. Leora felt a sense of calm she had never experienced before. She realized that curiosity could flourish without fear, that exploration did not have to be rushed or dangerous, and that trust was a key part of discovery. Before returning to the craft, Elias suggested one last observation: a small grove where the glowing plants formed circular patterns. Leora hesitated, her body still fragile, but she agreed. They moved carefully, and as they entered the grove, she felt the planet respond in a subtle but unmistakable way. The patterns of light intensified, flowing around them as if acknowledging their presence. Leora reached out, letting her hands hover above the glowing plants, and felt a quiet thrill. "This is incredible," she whispered. "Yes," Elias said softly, "and we found it together." Leora realized in that moment that human presence was not just safe, it enhanced her ability to explore, to notice, to learn. Elias did not lead her recklessly. He guided, supported, and respected her pace. With him, she felt that curiosity could be unbounded, yet protected. As they made their way back to the craft, Leora's mind was alive with new ideas, new questions, and a sense of wonder that stretched far beyond the canyon and the valley. She had not only explored the planet, but had also discovered a new way of moving through the universe, one guided by curiosity, trust, and shared experience. Sitting near the craft as Elias prepared the instruments for the next day, Leora allowed herself a quiet thought. Perhaps this human could teach her more than any mentor she had ever known. Perhaps together, they could uncover wonders that neither species could achieve alone. And for the first time, Leora felt that curiosity was not a solitary pursuit. It could be shared, nurtured, and even expanded by trust. In the company of this human, she realized that the universe was not something to fear, but something to embrace. And she was ready to step further, explore more deeply, and see the world in ways she had never imagined possible. The night deepened, and the glowing landscape stretched before them. Leora looked at Elias and felt a sense of calm and excitement all at once. Tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new experiences, and new lessons. And she knew with certainty that she was ready to explore them, not alone but together. The next morning, Leora woke to the soft glow of the planet's twin moons fading into the light of dawn. Her antennae twitched with anticipation, a signal of her heightened curiosity. Yesterday's journey had shown her that exploration could be joyful when accompanied by someone trustworthy. Today, she felt ready to take another step into the unknown. Elias was already outside the craft, adjusting a small instrument that hummed quietly, capturing subtle vibrations from the terrain. He noticed her movement and smiled, his calm presence offering reassurance without words. "Good morning," he said. "Ready for today?" Leora nodded, a hint of excitement in her voice. "Yes, I want to see more, but carefully." "Carefully is good," Elias replied. "We can explore at your pace." They began walking toward a large, gently sloping plateau in the distance. From afar it looked like a smooth expanse, but as they approached, the surface shimmered with patterns of movement. Leora crouched and observed carefully. Tiny creatures, each no larger than her palm, scurried across the ground, leaving trails that glowed briefly before fading. Elias knelt beside her, his eyes wide with fascination. "They're amazing," he whispered. "It's like they leave a map of their paths behind." "Yes," Leora said softly, "and each path tells a story. We just need to learn how to read it." Elias reached for a small device from his pack and held it over the glowing trails. The device amplified the patterns, translating their movements into data that pulsed lightly on a small screen. Leora watched, impressed. Humans had an intuitive way of combining technology with observation that made even subtle phenomena easier to understand. Together, they traced the creatures' paths across the plateau. Leora noted how they avoided certain plants and lingered near others. Elias suggested they follow one group gently, without interfering. Leora hesitated, considering the risks, but the human's calm demeanor encouraged her. They followed quietly, moving in harmony with the creatures, learning patterns that could inform them about the planet's hidden ecosystems. As the sun rose higher, a soft wind swept across the plateau, carrying with it a scent that was foreign but pleasant. Leora inhaled carefully, sensing the subtle changes in the atmosphere. Elias noticed her attentiveness and commented quietly, "You notice everything. I wouldn't have realized half of this without you." Leora felt a small warmth at his words. Human appreciation was different from her own society's quiet acknowledgement. It was personal, sincere, and motivating. She realized that she wanted to share more, to teach him what she had learned, and to see what he could teach her in return. They continued walking, eventually reaching the edge of a shallow valley. The light here was softer, diffused through floating, translucent plants that bent gently in the breeze. In the valley, clusters of life forms moved together in complex patterns. Some glided above the ground, their luminous bodies reflecting off the soft surfaces. Others appeared to float in place, spinning slowly as if suspended by invisible threads. Leora's eyes widened. This was unlike anything she had ever observed. "They are connected," she whispered, "not just moving randomly. They respond to each other almost like they are communicating." Elias leaned closer. "It's like a language, and maybe we can learn it together." The thought thrilled her. Until now, her exploration had been solitary, cautious, and carefully measured. But with Elias, she felt a sense of partnership. Their curiosity was shared, their observations combined, and their patience allowed the planet's secrets to unfold before them. Leora suggested they approach slowly, remaining at a distance to avoid startling the creatures. As they moved closer, one of the floating life forms drifted near them. It pulsed softly with light in a rhythm that seemed almost deliberate. Leora extended a hand slowly, her movements gentle and inviting. The creature responded by brightening its glow. Elias watched in awe, careful not to make sudden movements. "You see that?" he asked softly. "It trusts you. You didn't force it, and it responded." "Yes," Leora said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Trust encourages curiosity to grow." They spent hours observing the life forms, recording patterns, and hypothesizing about communication. Leora taught Elias to notice the smallest shifts in light, the subtle changes in movement, and the way the creatures reacted to environmental cues. Elias demonstrated how human instruments could detect frequencies beyond their perception, capturing vibrations and translating them into data they could study later. Together, they combined human technology and alien perception, achieving a depth of understanding neither could have accomplished alone. As the day progressed, the planet began to reveal even more wonders. Tiny glowing spores drifted in the air, forming patterns that seemed to mimic the movement of the creatures below. Leora reached out carefully, tracing the patterns with her fingers. The spores shifted in response, creating delicate arcs of light. Elias laughed softly, clearly delighted. "This planet is alive in ways I never imagined," he said. "Yes," Leora agreed. "And it responds to presence, to observation, to care. We must move gently." By mid-afternoon, they reached a section of the valley where the terrain became uneven, dotted with crystalline formations that reflected the light in dazzling ways. Leora paused, her delicate limbs tense. The structures appeared fragile, and she worried about disturbing them. Elias noticed and stopped beside her. "Take your time," he said. "We don't have to rush." Leora nodded, grateful for his patience. Step by careful step, she guided them through the formations. She noticed how the crystals resonated with sound and movement, how they seemed to echo the energy of nearby life forms. Elias observed closely, noting subtle vibrations with his instruments. "It's like they are alive too," he murmured. "Yes," Leora replied. "Not conscious like we are, but aware, sensitive to change." As they explored, Leora began to teach Elias how to sense the faint vibrations the crystals emitted. She showed him the rhythm of the planet, how energy flowed from one formation to another, how life and matter interacted in harmony. Elias listened attentively, mimicking her gestures and slowly learning to feel what she felt. The bond between them deepened, built on shared discovery and mutual respect. Late in the afternoon, Leora noticed a hidden opening among the crystals. It was a narrow passage, barely visible unless one knew where to look. She approached cautiously, examining the walls for stability. Elias followed silently, trusting her judgment. Together, they entered the passage, which led to a hidden chamber glowing with an ethereal light. Inside, delicate plants grew in spirals, their luminescent tendrils reaching toward the ceiling. Small creatures floated among the plants, their light shifting in soft, intricate patterns. Leora gasped softly. This was a hidden world, untouched and unobserved by humans until now. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Yes," Elias replied. "And you found it." Leora felt a thrill of pride, tempered by awe. She realized that exploration was not just about moving through space. It was about noticing, understanding, and appreciating the intricate details of life. Elias had helped her feel safe enough to explore fully, and now they shared this discovery together. They spent hours in the chamber, observing the interplay of light and life. Leora taught Elias how to anticipate the creatures' movements, how to recognize patterns in the glowing plants, and how to record observations without disturbing the environment. Elias demonstrated how human sensors could detect subtle vibrations, capturing data that complemented Leora's perceptions. Together, they created a detailed map of the chamber's ecosystem. As the day ended, they rested near the entrance of the chamber. Leora looked at Elias, her mind alive with wonder. "I never imagined I could see so much," she said softly. "Not alone, not even with my research tools, but with you, it feels different." Elias smiled gently. "That's what partnership does. Trust allows curiosity to flourish. You showed me how to see the world in a new way, and I hope I've helped you feel safe enough to explore." Leora nodded, a warm sense of gratitude spreading through her. She realized that curiosity was not just about discovering the world. It was about sharing it, learning together, and feeling safe enough to take risks in the pursuit of knowledge. As night fell, the chamber glowed softly with bioluminescent light. Leora and Elias sat quietly, observing the life around them. Tiny creatures moved in graceful arcs, glowing plants pulsed rhythmically, and delicate spores drifted in the air. The planet seemed to respond to their presence, acknowledging their careful exploration with gentle signals of light and movement. For Leora, it was a moment of transformation. She had always approached the world with caution, measuring every step, every interaction, every thought. But now, with Elias beside her, she felt free to explore fully. Curiosity and trust had become intertwined, and the universe felt alive in ways she had never imagined. She realized that humans were more than just explorers. They were companions, guides, and partners in the journey of discovery. Elias had shown her that patience, empathy, and gentle encouragement could unlock the full potential of curiosity. And in that moment, Leora understood that the universe was vast, full of mysteries, but that with the right companion, nothing was impossible to explore. As they prepared to return to the craft, Leora felt a quiet determination. Tomorrow would bring more discoveries, more lessons, and more moments of awe. She was ready to continue exploring, not just the planet, but the possibilities that lay within herself. And with Elias by her side, she knew that curiosity could take them both to places they had never dreamed of, in a universe that awaited their wonder. The morning light broke over the horizon, casting a soft golden hue across the plateau. Leora awoke with a sense of excitement that tingled through her body, subtle but persistent. The previous days had been filled with careful exploration, discovery, and shared curiosity. She had learned to trust Elias completely, and that trust had opened doors she never imagined she could cross. Today, however, promised to be different. The plateau ahead was wider, more uneven, and hinted at challenges Leora had not yet faced. Elias was already up, examining a ridge that overlooked a nearby valley. His calm presence gave her courage. "Good morning, Leora," he said, turning to her with a smile. "Ready to see what's beyond that ridge?" Leora nodded slowly. "Yes, but it looks difficult. The slope is steep and the rocks some look unstable." "That's okay," Elias said softly. "We take it step by step. We don't rush and we stay careful." They began their ascent, moving slowly over the uneven terrain. The ground beneath them shifted subtly, sending vibrations through Leora's delicate legs. She paused frequently, testing each step before committing her weight. Elias stayed close, offering silent reassurance rather than commands, letting her lead while providing support. Together they formed a rhythm, hers cautious and precise, his steady and observant. Halfway up the slope, a soft rumble passed beneath them. Leora froze, her antennae twitching in alarm. The ground had shifted slightly, enough to make her nervous. Elias crouched beside her. "It's just the terrain," he said gently. "Nothing dangerous if we move slowly." She hesitated, then took a deep breath. His calm voice grounded her. Slowly, she tested the next few steps, feeling the earth settle beneath her. Elias mirrored her pace, his eyes scanning the slope for signs of instability. As they continued upward, the slope gave way to a narrow canyon. Light filtered through translucent walls, creating a soft glow that danced across the ground. Leora's breath caught. The canyon seemed alive, shimmering as if the walls themselves were breathing. Small creatures floated in the air, weaving through the light patterns, and delicate plants bent gently toward the center. "It's beautiful," she whispered, moving forward cautiously. "Yes," Elias said, "and we get to explore it together." They walked slowly through the canyon, careful not to disturb the delicate life forms around them. Leora noticed how the floating creatures responded to subtle shifts in energy. Their light pulsed faster when she moved too quickly, then slowed as she adjusted. Elias observed closely, taking notes, but never interrupting her process. She realized that his human curiosity complemented her own in ways that allowed her to see more clearly. As they moved deeper, the canyon walls narrowed, and the air grew cooler. Leora's steps became more tentative. The ground underfoot was uneven, and some of the floating plants brushed against her limbs. She felt a momentary hesitation, wondering if she should turn back. Elias noticed immediately and placed a gentle hand near hers, not to lead but to offer reassurance. "You can do this," he said softly. "I'm right here with you." Her heart swelled with a strange warmth. For the first time, she felt that courage could grow not from ignoring fear, but from acknowledging it and moving forward carefully. She nodded, letting her trust in Elias guide her. Step by step, they navigated the canyon, discovering hidden nooks where delicate crystals caught the light and refracted it into soft patterns across the walls. Hours passed as they explored the canyon, mapping its subtle curves and documenting the life within. Leora marveled at how even small movements could create ripple effects in the environment. A soft breeze shifted a cluster of floating spores, and the creatures reacted instantly, changing their light patterns in a delicate dance. Elias observed quietly, clearly fascinated by her explanations and insights. At one point, they reached a narrow ledge overlooking a hidden chamber below. Tiny glowing creatures moved in intricate patterns, and the plants seemed to respond to the rhythms of their movement. Leora peered over the edge, her body tense but her curiosity stronger than her fear. "It's magnificent," she whispered. "Yes," Elias replied, "and look how everything interacts. Life, light, energy, it's all connected." Leora felt a thrill. She had seen complex ecosystems before, but never one that responded so vividly to subtle presence. She realized that the canyon itself was alive, not in the way her society defined life, but in a way that required observation, patience, and gentle interaction to understand. They decided to descend carefully to the chamber. Leora led the way, testing each foothold and adjusting her balance as the ground shifted beneath her. Elias followed, ensuring he was always within reach but never forcing her pace. Together, they reached the floor of the chamber, where the creatures floated around them like living lanterns. Leora reached out a hand slowly, and the creatures responded, pulsing in rhythm with her touch. Elias mirrored her movements, their synchronization creating a delicate pattern of light that spread across the chamber. Leora laughed softly, marveling at how the life forms reacted to the gentle guidance of two explorers who moved with care and respect. "This is incredible," she said. "I never imagined anything like this." "Neither did I," Elias replied, "but with patience we can discover wonders together." They spent hours observing, documenting, and experimenting with subtle movements, to see how the creatures and plants reacted. Leora felt a deep satisfaction, knowing that exploration did not require recklessness. Curiosity, combined with trust and careful observation, allowed them to uncover secrets that might have been lost to fear or impatience. As the sun began to set, the canyon glowed with an otherworldly light. Leora and Elias settled near the center of the chamber, watching the creatures' patterns shift and pulse. The soft hum of the planet surrounded them, a quiet reminder that life was present in every detail. "You make exploration different," Leora said softly. "I have never felt so safe to take risks to see things fully." Elias smiled gently. "That's the point. Exploration is not just about moving forward. It's about understanding, respecting, and feeling confident enough to experience new things." Leora nodded. She realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the presence of trust. With Elias by her side, she could step further, see more, and engage fully with the planet's mysteries. She understood now that her curiosity had been limited not by danger, but by the absence of someone who allowed her to feel safe while exploring. Night fell, and the chamber's glow intensified as the bioluminescent plants and creatures pulsed with the fading light. Leora and Elias observed quietly, sharing the wonder without words. The planet seemed to acknowledge their careful presence, responding with subtle shifts in color, movement, and light. Leora felt a deep connection, not only to the planet but to the human beside her. Elia's patience, empathy, and quiet guidance had allowed her to discover more than she ever could have alone. She realized that exploration was a shared experience, and that trust could amplify curiosity, transforming fear into wonder. Before returning to the plateau, Leora and Elias documented the chamber carefully. They created maps, recorded patterns, and noted subtle interactions between life forms and their environment. Every detail mattered, and their collaboration allowed them to see connections that neither could have noticed alone. As they began the climb back to the plateau, Leora felt a sense of calm accomplishment. She had faced a challenging terrain, navigated delicate ecosystems, and discovered a hidden world, all without fear or recklessness. She realized that the key to exploration was not strength, but awareness, patience, and the presence of someone who made curiosity safe to follow. By the time they reached the plateau, the sky was a deep shade of violet, and the first stars of the planet's night appeared. Leora looked at Elias and felt gratitude. He had not only guided her through physical challenges, but had also nurtured her confidence, allowing her curiosity to flourish in ways she had never experienced before. "Tomorrow," Elias said quietly, "we can explore further, maybe reach the valley beyond the canyon." "There's more to see," Leora smiled softly. "Yes, and I will be ready because you make it possible to explore fully." They settled near the edge of the plateau, observing the soft glow of the valley below. Tiny floating creatures drifted through the air, and delicate plants bent gently in response to unseen currents. The world seemed alive, welcoming their careful attention. Leora realized that she had discovered more than a hidden ecosystem. She had discovered a new way of experiencing the universe. As night deepened, Leora reflected on the past days. She had stepped beyond caution, embraced curiosity, and learned to trust in someone who valued patience and empathy as much as she did. Exploration was no longer a solitary pursuit but a shared journey, enriched by companionship, understanding, and mutual respect. With Elias beside her, she felt that the universe was not a place to fear, but a world of endless possibilities. And she knew that tomorrow, together, they would uncover even more wonders, each step guided by trust, curiosity, and the quiet joy of discovery. For the first time, Leora understood that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to step forward when someone made it safe to do so. And in the soft glow of the alien night, she felt ready to embrace everything the planet had to offer. The morning light spread gently across the alien landscape, spilling over the plateau and reflecting off the crystalline formations below. Leora woke with a feeling she had never experienced before, anticipation tinged with excitement, but free from fear. The past days of exploration with Elias had taught her that curiosity could be boundless if nurtured by trust and patience. Today, she felt ready for something more, something that might change not only her understanding of the planet, but also the way her society viewed exploration. Elias was already at the edge of the plateau, scanning the distant valley below. He had set up instruments that hummed quietly, capturing energy patterns and environmental readings. When Leora emerged from the craft, he looked up and smiled, his calm presence again grounding her. "Good morning, Leora," he said. "Are you ready to see what's beyond the valley?" She nodded, her excitement barely contained. "Yes, I want to see it all carefully." They began their descent toward the valley. The slope was gentler than the canyon they had navigated yesterday, but it stretched wide, dotted with glowing flora and tiny floating creatures. Leora moved carefully, testing her steps, while Elias followed at a measured pace, ready to offer support if needed. Step by step, they moved forward, their movements synchronized through trust and shared purpose. As they approached the center of the valley, Leora noticed something unusual: a large formation of luminous plants, arranged in spirals and patterns she had never seen before. The creatures around them moved in coordination, almost as if performing a ritual. Leora crouched to observe more closely, fascinated. "These patterns, they are intentional," she whispered. "Not random at all. The life here is communicating, expressing itself through light and movement." Elias knelt beside her, watching the spectacle unfold. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything like this, and we're witnessing it because we approached carefully with respect." Leora felt a thrill. She realized that the planet was teaching her something fundamental. Exploration was not only about discovering what existed, but about understanding the connections between all living things. The plants, the creatures, and even the patterns of light itself formed a web of life, each responding to the presence and energy of the explorers. They moved deeper into the valley, guided by subtle signals of light and movement. Leora taught Elias how to sense changes in the energy currents, how to anticipate the reactions of the creatures, and how to interact without disrupting the delicate balance. Elias showed her how human instruments could amplify perception, detecting vibrations and shifts that were invisible to the naked eye. Together, they combined their knowledge and skills, uncovering patterns that neither could have discovered alone. Hours passed as they mapped the valley, observing interactions between plants and creatures, and noting the way the environment responded to their presence. Leora's confidence had grown immensely. She realized that she could navigate unknown spaces without fear, that curiosity guided by trust was stronger than caution alone. She also recognized how much she had learned from Elias, whose calm patience and empathy had opened her mind to new ways of seeing the world. At the heart of the valley, they found a cluster of enormous crystalline formations, taller than any Leora had seen before. Light refracted through them in cascading patterns, illuminating the surrounding flora with a soft glow. Small creatures floated around the crystals, and delicate spores drifted through the air, creating an almost magical scene. Leora approached the crystals cautiously, placing her hands near the smooth surfaces. The crystals responded to her touch with gentle pulses of light. Elias mirrored her movements, and together they created a rhythm of interaction that seemed to resonate with the entire valley. Leora realized that the crystals were sensitive not just to touch, but to presence, awareness, and intention. "This is beyond anything I imagined," she whispered. "Yes," Elias said softly, "and it's responding to us because we approached with care, not force." Leora felt a profound sense of connection, not only to the planet but to Elias as well. She realized that exploration was most meaningful when it was shared, when trust allowed curiosity to reach its full potential. For the first time, She understood that human presence could inspire growth, courage, and understanding in ways her society had never considered. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the valley, Leora suggested they set up observation instruments to record the patterns. Elias agreed, and together they worked in harmony, combining human technology and alien insight to capture every subtle detail. The valley seemed to respond to their careful presence, amplifying the glow of the crystals and the movement of the creatures in a breathtaking display. While they worked, Leora felt a quiet thought take root in her mind. She had always followed rules, respected caution, and measured every action carefully. But she realized now that the universe held wonders that could only be discovered by stepping beyond fear, guided by trust and shared curiosity. Elias had taught her that courage did not mean recklessness. It meant moving forward carefully, with a companion who respected and supported you. After hours of observation, they paused to rest. Leora leaned against a crystal, watching the soft pulses of light spread through the valley. Elias sat nearby, adjusting instruments, and then looked at her with a quiet smile. "You've changed since we started this journey," he said. "You've learned to explore freely, to trust your instincts, and to embrace curiosity fully." "Yes," Leora admitted, "and I could not have done it alone. You made it possible to see beyond fear." Elias reached out a hand gently. "That's what exploration should be, shared, respectful, and inspiring. Together, we can see more than either of us could alone." Leora smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the sunlight. She realized that she had discovered more than the valley's hidden wonders. She had discovered the power of partnership, trust, and empathy. Humans, she thought, were extraordinary not because of strength or speed, but because of patience, understanding, and the ability to inspire courage in others. As night fell, the valley glowed with an ethereal light. Tiny creatures floated around them, their patterns shifting in response to the subtle energy of Leora and Elias. Leora traced their paths with her fingers, marveling at the harmony of the ecosystem. Elias observed quietly, recording data and sharing gentle observations. The world around them seemed to hum in approval, acknowledging the careful attention of two explorers who had approached without fear, without force, and with pure curiosity. Leora realized that this experience could change her society. Her people had always valued caution, careful measurement, and rules. But now she understood that exploration, when guided by trust and shared curiosity, could unlock possibilities that rules alone could never achieve. She imagined returning to her peers, sharing not just the discoveries of the planet, but the lessons of courage, empathy, and partnership she had learned from Elias. "I want to share this," she said softly, turning to Elias. "Not just the valley, but the way we explored it. How trust and curiosity can open doors that caution alone cannot." Elias nodded. "That's the most important discovery. Knowledge is valuable, but understanding how to explore, how to connect, is what makes discovery meaningful." Together, they documented the valley thoroughly, capturing patterns of light, movement, and energy. Leora felt a sense of completion, but also the thrill of knowing that the universe held even more secrets waiting to be discovered. She understood now that exploration was endless, and that with trust, partnership, and curiosity, anything was possible. As they prepared to return to the craft, a gentle breeze swept through the valley, carrying with it a faint, melodic sound. The plants and creatures pulsed in rhythm with the wind, creating a delicate symphony that filled the air. Leora and Elias paused, absorbing the moment. Leora realized that this planet was alive in a way that demanded not only observation but respect, patience, and empathy. She looked at Elias, feeling a deep gratitude. "Thank you," she said simply, "for making it possible to explore, to see fully, and to feel safe." "You made it possible too," he replied. "You taught me patience, awareness, and the joy of seeing the world through your eyes." Together, we discovered more than just a valley. The sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting the valley in shades of violet and gold. Leora and Elias stood side by side, looking out at the glowing landscape. She felt a profound sense of purpose and belonging. She had learned that curiosity could be shared, that courage could grow from trust, and that humans could inspire greatness not through force, but through empathy and understanding. As they returned to the craft, Leora reflected on the journey. She had faced challenges, navigated fragile terrain, and discovered hidden ecosystems, all without fear, without recklessness. She had learned that partnership could unlock doors to knowledge and understanding that she could never reach alone. Later, as they rested under the glowing stars, Leora thought of her society back home. She imagined returning and sharing not just the discoveries of the planet, but the lessons she had learned about trust, curiosity, and collaboration. She realized that humans had qualities worth celebrating: patience, empathy, and the ability to inspire courage and wonder in others. For the first time, Leora felt that exploration was more than a duty. It was a journey of growth, connection, and shared discovery. She understood that curiosity, when guided by trust and mutual respect, could lead to the most profound discoveries, both in the world and within oneself. As the night deepened and the valley glowed softly, Leora felt a quiet confidence. Tomorrow would bring new wonders, new challenges, and new opportunities to explore. And she knew, with Elias by her side, that every step into the unknown would be guided by trust, curiosity, and the quiet power of human empathy. The stars above twinkled gently, reflecting in the crystalline formations around them. Leora felt a sense of completion and anticipation at the same time. She had discovered a hidden world, learned to trust fully, and understood the true power of shared exploration. And in that moment, she realized something extraordinary. Humanity, its patience, empathy, and curiosity, was a force that could inspire greatness across the galaxy. Leora smiled, turning to Elias, and together they watched the glowing valley, ready for whatever the universe would reveal next.